If you listened to the last episode of Made in Chelsea, welcome back. And if you didn't listen to the last one, um, welcome, I guess. Yeah. Obviously, oh yeah, I just finished watching the episode because obviously last time I recorded it, I did a live reaction. But I was like, this time I was like, let me watch it and then say all my points. And then also I created a, what is it? Oh yeah, I created a kind of note thing while I was watching it. So I made pointers because that would be easier. And I feel like reality TV, you need to do pointers anyways because there's so much that happens over a span in one episode. So it's basically like you want to do pointers so you can touch on every little thing. But then one thing I want to touch on first before I dive into all of that though is that I think that episode 10, like the one that I'm talking about, I think obviously they didn't do a next time. So that makes me assume that maybe it might be finished. But then again, I'm not too sure. I don't know if if that's a decisive thing. Like I don't know if that's like very like concrete because I suppose sometimes they don't always do the next time. But then I think to myself, yeah, doesn't Made in Chelsea usually have about about 10? And also I actually see, I'm going to check on my TV, right? And also this episode as well felt very much what's the word? Yeah, finale related, anyways, because they always like to do that. Like, even the season last year, I suppose, the finale was like, what was it? It was when obviously when Jack liked Jazz, sorry. So I think the last season was basically when they left it where they were like, where it was like, oh yeah, Jack confessed to Jazz, and then she basically just left him, or no, they were on the staircase, and she just left him on the staircase. But anyways, let me even check anyway. So previous season, which was series 29. This is what I'm saying, and I think yeah, it's looking like, as I said, it's looking like a pattern, guys. That yeah, every single season basically, all the way back to like season 26. Actually, that's what I've checked. Is that 10's always the last one. So, anyways, and even with this episode as well, it obviously just ended with Jazz and Jules basically talking about their friendship. But that's not where we're going to start off, anyways, because we're going through the whole thing. We're going through the whole episode. So I don't want to start off talking about Jazz and Jules because I'm going to get there when I get there. When I cross that bridge, that's when I'll do it. So obviously, starting off from the episode, right? I was gonna say that Arman annoys me. So Arman was in the first few minutes of the episode, and he's just jarring because obviously I think he annoys me because I don't know what his reasoning is for being in the show. It's the same way I suppose that in this episode they were talking about Liv's whole thing and Liv getting on the show. But as I said, I don't even know how Armin got here. He's just a new character, I think. So I necessarily think, okay, no, he didn't actually come in through anybody. But even if he didn't, it doesn't matter. I still don't know what he's doing here. And I think also what was annoying me about him was that obviously he was grappling two different he was grappling two different women at a time, and he thought he could do that, and he thought he could be cheeky about it as well, and he thought he could do it obviously with Tabitha and Yaz, but mainly more Tabitha, I feel, than Yaz, because obviously Yaz, also her coming on the show was weird as well. I meant her her appearance onto the show, because I feel like she came through the show, I feel, I forgot basically how she got on here, but again, I feel like hers might have been connection related. I don't think she was just a new character. Do you know what I mean? Because they like to have that. Do you know what I mean? New characters, but they also like to do their whole thing of people being being, what's the word? Interconnected, interlinked. So they basically want to just put somebody on there because they know each other in real life. So I forgot if that was Yaz's way, but again, I still feel like with Tabitha, like Tabitha might necessarily be Tabitha's like an OG Made in Chelsea member anyway, because she's friends with like Ollie and yeah Ollie and Sophie Herman, and that kind of I want to say clique. So obviously that's her group. So that's why obviously I feel like to do that with Tabitha is crazy. Like, who even are you? This is my thing. And I'm just like, why is Armin here and when is he going to leave? Anyways, moving on to the next point. Um, Liv, obviously, Liv shouldn't be dating anyone. Um, and obviously, the only reason I say that is because exactly, so she's upset about all the comments she's been getting about how she's been acting on the show. Or actually, no, hold on, that's not right. She's been getting comments, I think, about yeah, her getting on the show through Jack, and also I think there was some comment thing about her being a wet mop or whatever, but we're like, she's not really that, exactly, she's not even really that interesting, and I never thought she was interesting when she first came in the show either. Like, of course she came through the show, as I said, through Jack, but I still feel like even aside from Jack, she's not that interesting. Do you know what I mean? Some of the characters in this show, like, they have their own, they have their own personality, sorry, and they're not just like exactly people who are just, what's the word? They're just known for being with their partner. Do you know what I mean? They're also a separate human being. You know what I mean? But Olivia doesn't really have that. Obviously, yeah. I just mean that I've always thought, like how I even mentioned this in the previous episode, anyways, because I was like, Olivia's acted very weirdly in how obviously her and Jack broke up, but they broke up and then it was almost just like, do you know what I mean? It just felt like so rushed. And then obviously she obviously jumped into something with Kit, and then now obviously she's still carrying this thing on with Chugs, but I feel like she's basically just rushed this whole breakup experience, and like she's just like, oh, can't she be single or whatever? But she's very confused as well, and I do think anyways, even in this episode, right, with her and Chugs getting closer, they're not gonna even go anywhere, I don't think. I'd be very stunned if they do, but the fact of the matter is she's made it clear that she's not in a place to date, and I think she's been saying that from since she came out of her relationship. So we're just like, what is this even about? Do you know what I mean? And people always like to slap that casual label on, but they know that they can't, like, sometimes people can't sustain the casual label. Some people can, but I don't feel like either, I wouldn't say her actually, but maybe more so Chugs, because obviously he was what's the word? He was having a hard time with knowing what casual meant. So I think more so him, and it will be him to like get the most hurt of it rather than her, because she's just enjoying how it's going, but he'll be the one to fall in head first because of course he's like, this is him just being with her, like, do you know what I mean, in a casual way, and he's the one who will get feelings, but she won't get any because obviously she just came out of a relationship. But that's why I feel why you don't, like, exactly why you don't go for people who just come out of relationships, yeah, fresh off the boat. I mean, like, it's just like fresh off the bat. I just mean like it's too quick, and they're just not in the headspace to date anybody. So you're basically just wasting your own time because you're gonna say you want it to be casual, but then there's moments exactly where you're gonna have moments of doubt where you're like, actually, I don't want this to be casual, and I kind of want this to be more than it is. And this is what I mean. I know where it's going. And also, I feel like, anyways, Ben and Chelsea is predictable. So the fact of the matter is of course I've said that's where it's gonna go, but I already know that's where it's gonna go because that will be their, what's it called? Yeah, that will be one of their storylines. Like they like to have, it will be one of their storylines, and they'll use it as a way to yeah, add drama to the program because it's what they need. And anyways, that was basically what I was saying in the previous episode too, because I was like, Maid and Chelsea basically grabs at straws anyways, because I feel like it's a show that doesn't really have as much as much viewers as it used to have. So I do feel like it's a show that tries to do whatever it can to keep people here. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying I know that's going to be their whole thing. And yeah, that's going to be their whole thing. And they're just going to do it that way because, of course, that's what they will do. And I just mean, yeah, like, they're doing that anyways. I was upset the way that she treated Jack, like I said. And it's not even like, because it's not even like, because I was thinking, oh, when she was saying Jazz, like the comment, I was like, sure, women shouldn't, like, what's the word? Yeah, what's it called? Pile on with each other or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, like, again, the comment was true, anyways. So yeah, the comment was true that she did get on the show through Jack. So I don't even know why she was offended. Like, it was actually a fact, and we're sorry. Like, we're sorry that you can't admit that that is the fact, and that obviously you are on the show through Jack. Well, like, whether or not, I think maybe she might also then, anyways, be more upset about the wet mop thing, but hey ho, whatever. And anyways, if you don't want to be known as a wet mop, then obviously she should try to make more of a, what's it called? Make more of an effort, but just make it obviously exactly like, I think maybe it could be hard anyways, because maybe it's hard to break away from her just being known as Jack's ex. Do you know what I mean? I think it can be hard to do that when really you've come on a show like this, because you'll just be known for that. Like, you actually might as well leave. That's why, actually, because when I think of Jazz and Zayn and all those people, I mean, and Olivia, I obviously think of Lauren, and obviously Lauren ended up leaving Made in Chelsea because of Zaino or whatever. But then obviously Lauren also came through the show through a guy as well. So I think really the best thing is really to do when that happens is generally leave. Do you know what I mean? I do think that that is what should happen. But hey ho, because this is what I mean. Because it just comes a thing where, because I always thought with how Lauren was on the show, she was on there for too long. She was basically just getting that check, and that's why she didn't really have. She didn't really have a role. Like, we don't even know what she was there for. She was just taking up space and poking her nose in people's business, and then that's my whole thing. Like, obviously, it's the same for Olivia, but then again, maybe also it's not, because obviously they are making her date these new people, yeah, in the show as a way for her to stay on there. Do you know what I mean? Her longevity or whatever. But I do think, as I said, her time is up. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, her time is up. You came on here through Jack. Like, obviously you're not with Jack anymore, so you may as well go. Obviously, oh yeah, the next point is like, oh, Sam and Olivia ran into each other, and obviously I think it was just like obvious that they would, because they want to make it seem like Sam and Olivia are the same people or whatever. And I think I wrote in the description for this episode as well that obviously if Sam is basically telling her that she's done nothing wrong or whatever, and that he's on her side, it obviously means, do you know what I mean? If you don't want Sam Prince in your corner, that obviously means that you're doing something wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously you're acting in the wrong way, because Sam's whole role in the show anyways is just like, he's just the, what's it called? He's the general, like, stirrer, and that's basically what he does in the show, and he doesn't do anything else. And he's always, yeah, he's just the gossip guy. I feel the guy that just obviously brings the drama. Do you know what I mean? That's basically what he does. He doesn't do anything else. Um, and exactly, I think she should know that as a way. She's like, I think she was also looking at it like, oh, she was like, Sam was flirting with me, and it made her sound like, oh, she had standards, like she'd never go for Sam. And I was like, well, of course not. He's awful. And like, if you're being compared to Sam, then do you know what I mean? Like, we said, what's going on with you? Do you know what I mean? And I think if you are, you should reassess it. And yeah, you should reassess your whole life, and you should be like, there's obviously something that I'm doing and it needs fixing. Do you know what I mean? This is my thing. I'm like to her, she's thinking, oh yeah, Sam, I saw Sam Prince and he said that I'm actually doing the right thing. And we're like, well, that tells you that is the biggest thing, the biggest clue that you need to know that you're messing up. And you know what's crazy? Because exactly the whole thing about Olivia, why I've been annoyed with her, is that she's just never felt exactly seemed sympathetic in the way that she treated Jack. Like even what was nice in this episode, Jack apologized to Kit because obviously Jack was like to Kit, oh, in the beginning, he was very what's the word? He was very rude to Kit because Kit was obviously having this whole thing with Liv. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm sorry that in the beginning I came across very aggressive. Sorry, water break. Yeah, he was like, I'm sorry that I came across that way with Liv because obviously I was just coming from a place of anger. Do you know what I mean? And then Kit was like, "Oh well, don't apologize because like obviously we've all been there. Like we know what it's like or whatever." I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, I've been there." And I was like, and I think when I was watching it, I was like, "Yeah, we've all been there." And I was like, "No, speak for yourself." Um, I was like, I haven't been there. Then I was like, I obviously mean, I know what he means because it's just like, of course you're going to be angry with the guy. Do you know what I mean? More so than be angry at the girl, like the one that yeah, your ex, who you loved. Do you know what I mean? It's not even a thing like that. But my thing is that exactly when he said that, I was like, Olivia is the problem. Do you know what I mean? Kit was never the problem. So that's why I think it was like, hats off to Jack for having the ability on even yes having the ability to even go to Kit and even apologize because it couldn't have been easy because it's just like, do you know what I mean, to really look at it and be like, wow, I didn't act well. But this thing is, yeah, exactly, Olivia should know that too because she never acted well in the whole thing either. Like, and I just think she didn't even she didn't even she was not sympathetic at all. And I think that's why Sam sees himself in her because obviously he comes across as very like reckless and he does things he just does things crazy and he doesn't care about the people who are around. And like, if say how Bex was obviously Freddie's ex, but then he went after Bex, and it was like, I suppose he doesn't see anyone as off limits, and like he's always just doing crazy stuff. So I think, oh yeah, my next point was like, oh, so true that he'd be on her side because I hate her and him, and I was like, when I read that point though, it seems a bit violent, but like, yes, I don't like Sam, and as I said, actually, I don't like the way that Olivia's acted. I feel like it would be rude to say exactly that I hate her. I just think that she hasn't gone about the scenario well at all. Do you know what I mean? I don't think people usually do act that way in breakups either. And I'm just like, if you really love that person, then you wouldn't be so quick to like, what's it called? I don't know, because people always look at it like you want to jump into bed with somebody else to get over someone else. But I always think that that's not like, you know what I mean? It's not the cure. Like, it's not the cure or the medicine. Like, what you're supposed to do is step back and take time. Do you know what I mean? Or even they could have done something in the show, like for Olivia to leave and then come back, if anything. Like, that might have worked. And I feel like it would have also been more dramatic as well for her to leave and come back because yeah, exactly, it would have been so striking and like pivotal because obviously it just would have been like, oh, kudos on her of really being the bigger person to leave and then also coming back when she's basically had time to grieve the relationship, but instead she's just been messy. I'm just like, you wouldn't be messy in your own relationship. Obviously, next point in the episode is basically Sam Vanderpump. Obviously my point just says Sam Vanderpump. I'm just like, probably because Oh yeah, I was thinking about how, yeah, how obviously he's not well, and I think that is very interesting that obviously that's what's happening in this season, because it makes you think about the fact that Made in Chelsea is actually quite a serious show, and stuff do happen on here where people actually have real life issues. Because this is the thing with Made in Chelsea. I always look at it like it's very glitz and glam, but sometimes, real stuff does occur. Like, obviously, him and Alice are having a child, but he also has this thing, yeah, he has this thing where he needs a liver transplant and he's also not well. And I was just like, wow, like he's going through a lot. And yeah, and I was just like, what I was thinking is that I just wish him all the best, really. And generally, I hope that, like, exactly that he gets his liver transplant and that he's fine and everything like that. Because obviously, I was just like, it was shocking, like the news, because that happened in like the previous episode or the last one. No, the previous one or the one before that, where obviously he had to break the news to Tabitha and Ollie, and obviously it was quite, yeah, it was quite moving, and obviously quite sad because obviously they're his really close friends, and I think what he's most worried about is the fact that like, oh yeah, obviously I don't think his father isn't around, and I think that's why it's so like it's hard for him to think that he's like not well and Alice is having a child and he obviously wants to be in his child's life. Do you know what I mean? So it's very much very like, very interesting and yeah, very sad to hear. I mean, the next point is obviously Bluebird, because I mentioned Bluebird in the previous episode as well, but they were at Bluebird. Obviously, Alice and Yaz and Bex were all at Bluebird, and obviously that was exactly my next point. Also goes into that too, of how they were talking about. Oh yeah, Bex was like, "Oh, I should have known," or whatever, because obviously Sam told her that he kissed somebody else, and she was like, "Oh, I should have listened to what everyone was saying about you." And then Yaz was also like, "Oh, of course Sam hasn't grown up, and that shouldn't really be a surprise or whatever." So she basically said it shouldn't be a surprise. And obviously, yeah, and I was like, I think, oh yeah, I wrote in my point, so I was like, Sam not growing up, surprise, you know what I mean? Like shock. Um as if we hadn't seen that coming, and he probably will never do so. Do you know what I mean? He will never do so. Because it's the thing where like Sam hasn't even been on the show, like as in he's on the show, but I meant he's never always in it like all the way through. I know that like before he had left for a bit and then he came back. But I just think like exactly he's never gonna grow up, and I do think he's the type of person actually to cling to like something like Made in Chelsea. Like, lots of people when they're in shows, sorry, my nose, when they're in shows, they like to cling on to the show and they don't like to, what's the word? Yeah, leave it in their past. They just kind of want to ride its coattails for a long time. People like to talk about that, I think, in regards to like, what's his name? Oh, Tom Felton in Harry Potter. They like to put that together and say that someone like Tom is someone who hasn't like left Harry Potter, but everybody else has really left Harry Potter like in the past, but he hasn't really done that. But that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think that Sam will grow up, and I would be surprised if he left the show, because that was actually one of my points on here as well. Like it was near one of the end, because I said Sam is never leaving, and I'll be stunned if he does, because you know what I mean. I think what would be crazy is the biggest thing would probably be if Sam had like what do you call it, a rebrand. But it would be, I think, in the only way he'd have a rebrand is if he met someone that he really wanted to, what's the word, settle down with. If he had that, I think that would be the only way where he would actually think about leaving, because obviously a lot of people say about him even in the show that he kind of just always need some kind of drama thing to really be involved with. And if he doesn't have that, then he has nothing else really going for him. So I think if he didn't have that, do you know what I mean, I think that might be a thing in his head where he would probably want to make an exit. That's the only way I can really think of it. And I that's the only way. That's the only way that he would leave. But other than that, I think he will cling on to the show. And I think what's crazy about Sam is that it shocked me that him and Yaz even broke up, because I remember, I think when Made in Chelsea wasn't on, actually, they Sam and Yaz had a podcast, and yeah, they were basically doing a podcast and like obviously being a couple and just speaking on there. And I always thought people who did podcasts and like were couples, like, it's a very serious like topic, I think, because do you know what I mean? If you're in a relationship and you guys are doing a podcast, then you really must care about each other. But then again, that may not be true as well, because I guess people may just pick podcasts up in the way that they don't take them that seriously, maybe, because I suppose that's how Sam and Yaz might have looked at it, because they might have been in love at the time, but then obviously, yeah, they was discarded the pod afterwards. So hey ho, it should have been like, because I feel like a lot of couples, like even Made in Chelsea and Towie, like they do a lot of like, what's the word, co-parenting with like pets. And I'm like, you'd think that they'd want to do that with yeah, with a pod. Like that could be their idea, in the way of, I don't know, like not them being on the pod together, but they're on the pod separately, because obviously it's their, what's it called, it's their business, do you know what I mean? So I think, I don't know, you'd think they would just try to make their business work. But hey, that's my thing. It's just, for me, when I've always thought about the pet thing as well, and I've always found that really weird, because I'm just like, I would not want to co-parent a pet with an ex, because as I think I even mentioned this in one of my episodes before, because I was saying about how, yes, how when people have children with people, then you have to have that person in your life for the rest of your life. Do you know what I mean? So that's why both things actually are huge commitments, like a pet with someone, and even a child. But people compare pets and children, don't they, as to say that they're similar, and that's why, exactly, I just mean I would never take a big step like that unless I know that the relationship is super, super secure, because then it's like I have to be around that person like 24/7, and like I can never get away from them either. I'm just like, I can never get away from them either. Like they're just constantly haunting you, but they're not even dead. They're alive and well. Do you know what I mean? So that's just crazy. Anyways, the next point was, are you a nice girl? And they were, obviously, it was them, it was Paris, Zaino and Olivia, and they were inside the shop and they were talking about Jazz not being a nice girl or whatever, just because of the comment thing, like I was saying earlier. And because obviously that was Jazz's bad, because they could see that she liked that comment. So it was just like, oh, whatever. And then I think, yeah, they saw Jazz liked it, and then I think Zaino commented on it as well, because, or not that Jazz liked it, but she just wrote a comment in there and was like, oh, I hate when other women drag down other women or whatever. It was something like that. I was thinking, why would she even comment in the first place? Do you know what I mean? I think that's so weird, because I've always found that weird that celebrities do that, because it's like, why would you comment to someone's thing? Like they don't even, yeah. I'm like, don't take those things personally, because, and especially because I think with shows like MIC and just, as I said, reality TV anyways, as genres, it's just like we don't even know what's real and what's fake. So I also think that people like shouldn't take those insults like to heart. I mean, do you know what I mean? They shouldn't take them to heart, because we're like, oh, they don't really they don't really know them. But it's sometimes when we look at reality TV and we're looking at people as characters, it's basically like we see them on the television and they're basically a character or a character. Was it? Yeah, character or whatever. What's that word? But like, like it's to say that we're seeing them, but we're not really seeing them. Do you know what I mean? For actually who they are, because they're not the person that they are on television. So this is the thing. We're like, oh, the comment, yeah, was like Olivia's a wet mop, but we don't know that she's a wet mop because she could be really lovely. You know what I mean? In real life, even for me, exactly. I'm saying, oh, I hate the Olivia that I see on television, and I can say that because that's fine. But it's not like, oh, I can say I hate Olivia because I don't know her. Do you know what I mean? I'm saying her on the TV and her as a character, as that's what reality TV makes people look like. That is what I'm looking at. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm looking at and what I'm addressing. But I don't know that. But then my whole thing was that when they were talking about the nice girl thing, I was like, oh, that's just their way of trying to dog on Jazz again. And then also my thing is that Zaino as well, this is the second time she's been at the front of a drama. So really I was like to myself, what do you really know about being a nice girl, seeing as if you're always in, yeah, sometimes I'm just like, if you're always in situations and people always see you at the front of what's it called, altercations, then that's going to be a bit difficult for us to think that you are so nice. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I was just like, oh, she said that is Jazz nice. And I was just like, we're not so sure about you though. And then actually that's why it coincides again with obviously, yes, Lauren's exit. And again, yeah, Lauren left the show because of her and Zaino's whole drama on the show. So that still again makes you think, exactly. We don't really know if Zaino really is a nice girl, even though in that situation with Zaino and Lauren, I actually did think that Lauren was at what's it called? I thought Lauren was at fault actually, even though obviously the way that she exited, it made it seem like she was the victim. But then I feel like on the show, like Lauren was really mean to Zaino, and obviously that was another thing because that's why Zaino's upset with Jazz because of how Jazz handled that scenario, and then obviously they call Jazz a people pleaser, which even obviously, yes, was which is a point I will get to because obviously Tristan was saying a lot in this entire episode, and I was like, oh, like this is what I mean. Both of their partners have things to say about them, and they're not always good things. So I'm like to myself, you guys aren't gonna work because yeah, because I feel like if your partners both have negative things to say about like your supposed best friend, then how can you guys really, yeah, how can you guys really be friends? I mean, because you have the two most people who are important to you in your corner. So it's just, yeah, I basically think as well, which obviously I'll get to because it's on the list, is that, yeah, Jazz and Jules, I do think that, yeah, even how in the last scene, like I was saying earlier, is that I don't think that their friendship's gonna last for much longer, but that's just my opinion. And you never know because, yeah, you never know because as I said, they could still be friends, but it's just like I just thought to myself, like the way that it's going and the way that it looks and the way that I said, yeah, Tristan had something to say about the whole scenario, and then yeah, they're arguing with each other, being like, oh, you're not a little friend, or you haven't done much for me, and oh, you didn't show up for me, and those kind of arguments, I feel like in friendships, they're real like make or break stuff. Do you know what I mean? They're not easy conversations. Sooner or later, you'll end up yeah, breaking, because it's literally the easiest thing that you can do, because otherwise you're just gonna have an argument that goes on over and over, and you're not gonna get anywhere either. Like, obviously it's crazy because they were even saying in the last scene, oh, how did it get to this big thing as well? But you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't even know. I just think that when this stuff does happen, do you know what I mean? It can be a bit difficult. I would like to see exactly if they're able to make it work, but you never know. And I think in the next season, I suppose, which will probably be, I don't know. Yeah, the next season will probably be next year now, because sometimes Made in Chelsea likes to have the what do you call it? It has the Christmas episode sometimes. So obviously, exactly, the next season won't be till then. Um, so I don't know, but I just mean in the next season, I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't really like friends, or say they were on a break or something. But you know, like, exactly, when you think break in a friendship, you're like, they don't really exist. I feel like obviously breaks in relationships happen, like romantic relationships, they happen, but a break in a friendship, I think, like, because you can't leave that just hanging. I think, like, it's probably finished if you are currently on one. Anyway, anyways, the next bit was, do rich people know the line between necessity and luxury? Because obviously that was James and Mavis scene where they were talking about, oh, James was saying Mavis spends too much money, but I was like to myself, Mavis rich. So money isn't even a, you know what I mean? She said she just likes to hear the noise, and money isn't even a questioned her. Like, to myself, you guys don't know what it's like to be poor. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't know what it's like, not even in the slightest. So that's why I was like, necessity and luxury, they don't know the line, or even the difference, because poor people have to go through that every day, because of what, because every time you're like, oh, I do need, say, this, like, for example, oh yeah, I need some shoes, but I also need to buy flour. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously somebody who is, yeah, less fortunate than them would be like, oh, I'm gonna buy the flour because I don't have that much money. Do you know what I mean? But I was just like, that scene was laughable to me, because that's why I was like, what do you guys know about that? Somebody else who's as fortunate than you would love to be in your shoes and would love to feel like money doesn't matter, because you can literally buy whatever you want. You can literally buy whatever you want, and the money doesn't run out. But maybe it was like to him, or maybe it was like to James, oh, just keep making more money. And he was like, oh, okay. But it is weird, because I actually have always thought that about Mava and James' relationship anyway. But Mava does wear the pants, because I feel like she's very, like, what's the word? Yeah, she's very assertive. And that's why with her saying, oh yeah, go out and make the money, I was like, yeah. I was like, she knows what's up. And obviously James is just like, yeah, sure. He was like, fine. Because I guess he was like to himself, he knows what he's in. Like, do you know what I mean? He knows where he's at. Like, he has a wife that has to spend lots of money. So he was like, oh, cool. Then I'm just going to do that. And I was like, exactly. Good that you know that. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes people don't. Oh, and then, okay, so now we've reached the point where I said I was going to touch on, right? Which was, even your boyfriend is rude about your best friend, because obviously Tristan was talking to, like, well, he was talking to Jules, and he was also talking to Zaino, but how he said to Jazz that she's a bit of a people pleaser or whatever. And hello, I was like, if my best friend's boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever said I was a people pleaser, I'd be really irritated. And it's the same thing, because obviously, yeah, Jules was like, oh, you and Demi are not gonna, yeah, you guys aren't gonna go the distance. And this was the same thing. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like, both people in the relationship are saying bad things about their partners. But then this is what I mean. Tristan's one is like, yeah, something bad about your girlfriend's best friend. We're just like so down. That's why this is what I'm saying. The whole situation that they have going on is so very messy, and I'm just like, I just don't know where it's going. But the fact of the matter is, I think this is the next point I said, which is I wonder if all this stuff will make Demi and Jazz break up, because the fact of the matter is that although I feel like Jules shouldn't have been honest with Jazz, like in that whole situation of being like, oh yeah, if Demi doesn't trust you, then you guys' relationship's not going to work out, and Demi may not be the person for you. Although I don't think she should have said that, I do agree that like Jazz jumped into a relationship with Demi, and although she might feel like Demi's her person, it was fact of the matter is that you guys wouldn't have been having that conversation in the first place of about trusting if Jazz had that time to do so and had been able to explore and like, you know what I mean, because Jazz came out of the like she came out of the closet and it was just a new thing for her, and she didn't even have, what's the word, yeah, she doesn't even have a gay community around her, so all of this stuff is new to her. And I suppose I do see that element in their relationship. It's a bit like, you know, they may be happy, and I don't want them to break up either, by the way. When I first saw them on the TV, I was like, oh, I don't want them to break up because that'd be really sad. Just because I really like, well, I like Jazz, and I obviously really like Demi, because obviously Demi is from Towie. She's one of the Sims, what's it called? Siblings or whatever. So she's part of the Sims family tree. So really I was like, oh, I don't want them to break up because it feels like a collision of worlds anyways, you know, Towie and MIC connected. So I was like, oh, that would be really sad. But then it's more like, when I think about it, it's just like maybe they have passed that rut that they had with the whole trusting thing, because Demi says she does trust her. But then of course I'm just like, yeah, like it can be true that I guess if you're with someone who's more experienced than you, and then you haven't really done all of that stuff, it can be a bit of a difficult scenario. Not that you can't make it work, but I still just think that what's the word? I still just think that yeah, Jazz should have had the time to do so. So I do feel like yeah, I'm just not really sure, and that's why. But then I feel like right now with what's going on with her and Jules, it's a bit of a strain as well on their current new relationship. Like obviously Jules and Tristan's relationship isn't even that new. Do you know what I mean? Um, Demi and Jazz's is, so I feel like it's more of a thing where it's more not of a good time for them to be faced with something like this. And like, that's what I mean. Early relationships can really be on the brisk of ending. Like, do you know what I mean? No matter what, because anything can really take place. And yeah, that will be the end, basically. Um, so yeah, I hope that they don't. But then, as I said, like there's a lot of stress going on for both people involved. And then I suppose, as I said, it's two relationships, both pitted at each other. So that's why I think to myself, yeah, you guys, this is not going to work out. And as I said, people's relationships are very important to them, even aside from how they are talking about their friendship. But if you're like talking about your friendship versus the person you want to be with for the rest of your life, it's a bit like you would choose the other one. You would choose your actual soulmate over and that's the whole thing anyways, that people have this discussion anyways of, I don't know, your friends versus your partner. Like it's a very huge thing. And I suppose a lot of the time people choose their partner 10 times out of 10 sometimes, but I guess it all depends. That's what I mean. That's also what I'm just thinking with this whole scenario. I guess it just depends. And I think to myself, I hope that they do. But as I said, they do seem very like, yeah, they do seem very upset. And like, I do feel like they seem like they are fringing more to like, yeah, the end. Oh yeah, then my last point was the Vanderpump charity gala. And obviously it reminded me of Great Gatsby, although it's for a cause. But then again, that's what I said earlier. Hold on a second. That's what I said earlier about what's it called? About how Maine and Chelsea is glitz and glam. But I do really like what Vanderpump obviously is doing because he's doing it for his health. And obviously we're like, yeah, more people should do that with their money. I think even Billie Eilish was talking about that the other day or something like that. Yeah, Billie Eilish was talking about I think Elon Musk and obviously saying that Elon should be using his money for for causes, and I think that exactly this is the same thing. Do you know what I mean? You don't even see the Maine and Chelsea people do that a lot either. Sometimes it happens actually when I think about it. It happens in Towie as well actually, but as I said, you don't see them do it very often. But then this is the thing, that might be an element. You don't see them do it very often. They only obviously do it when, what's it called? When they are at the center. Do you know what I mean? So he's doing it in a way that because his health is at risk, that's why he is willing to make a fund and get people to donate, and also I think, oh yeah, he said that people should also register on the list. So I don't know, but anyway, that might be unfair to say what I just said. I think I remember, I'm done with my list now. That might be unfair what I just said, that oh, rich people only want to help um when when it suits them. But I don't know, because I hate to say that and that makes me sound like I hate rich people, but it's just like, it's true though that sometimes that does happen, because yeah, but then other times no. But it just depends on what kind of, as I said, it depends on what kind of rich person you are. That's why I'm saying with Billy, Billy's not that kind of rich people, but we've always known that about Billy. That's the thing. But I'm just saying that with these people, like, we don't really know what it is that they really um get up to. It's just the fact of the matter is, again, with these shows, it just makes it seem like all they ever do really is go on holidays and all that kind of stuff. So you just can't really be sure what it is that they're doing with all the money that they have. Do you know what I mean? So, hey, so obviously I'm just like, it was great to see. And again, I shouldn't be too um judgy, like, do you know what I mean? Because maybe Sam would have done it anyway. Do you know what I mean? He seems like a good guy, really. So maybe he would have donated to that charity anyway if he wasn't ill. And maybe some of them obviously could get up to that stuff in their own time too. I think it's best. I'm like, good to leave it on that note. Some of them could get up to doing that as well. But hey, I don't know where what's it called? I don't know where what's it called? Where Man and Chelsea is heading on to next, and I bet you, I suppose, as I said, the next season will probably be next year, but like late in the new year, because they always do that. Um, yeah, late in the new year is that I don't know. They'll probably go on holiday again. I feel they never really like to stay in Chelsea very often, but whatever. And I think, well, like most stuff, bad stuff, well, most drama stuff happens in yes, in Chelsea rather than, okay, it happens in both places actually. It happens in Chelsea and on holiday. So I suppose it's just one of those things. The episode was good though. The episode was good. Like, I just don't know, like, I'm just like, these shows are so crazy, and Yeah, these shows are crazy. And I think that's what I'm saying. I said about the Great Gatsby thing because it was like, yes, it reminded me of that. Because remember, Sam was like, oh, you actually know why it reminded me of Great Gatsby because, yeah, Sam was standing on the on the thing when he had a drink and he said, everyone dance. And it was just reminding me of that because I was like, that's what the Great Gatsby big party thing, like that scene was about. So, do you know what I mean? This is me always relating everything back to film. Do you know what I mean? I can't help that. That's just the way that my brain works. Because obviously I was like, why am I comparing it to that when, this is actually for a proper cause and to make sure that, more people donate their livers so more people can get liver transplants. And yeah, and so that people can be well and like obviously still live out their days, because I think that was even what Alice was saying to him as well, because obviously Sam was feeling a bit sad. I think he was feeling sad before he did his speech, but obviously Alice was like, don't worry, it's going to be all right, you have to think about your health and this kind of stuff. And yeah, he really does, you know what I mean? He can't think about anybody else. He has to think about, the fact that he wants to be able to have a transplant and be in his child's life and everything like that. But anyways, this was this is the end of the Made in Chelsea episode, and obviously I was gonna say I was gonna say see you next one, but obviously the Made in Chelsea obviously finished now, so obviously possibly see you next year. Yeah, see you next year when Made in Chelsea is back on. It's so crazy because again I feel like I wasn't even that concentrated with the show. Of course I was making my pointers while watching, but again I wasn't even that like locked in. And this is obviously the whole thing. That like I was even also looking at Made in Chelsea on Wikipedia as well. And I think like I was looking at the view numbers. Remember, the view numbers have changed significantly over the years. But then on Wikipedia also, I think hold on, let me get it up. On Wikipedia they also don't have the view count like for like it over what's it called? Oh, I was just so really like when you search Made in Chelsea, I was just seeing that it says Made in Chelsea star Sam Vanderpump breaks down amid fear he may never see son. Oh, that's really upsetting. I think is it? Oh, it looked like was he on that podcast? What's it called? I think so. He was on. He was must be on. He must have been on that podcast. Yes, I thought so. He was on. We Need to Talk with Paul Brunson. I love that podcast, by the way. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like just throw that segue that in, just like while you're listening to me. I'm like I love Paul's podcast. It has so much. He talks about such what's it called, serious issues, because obviously it's We Need to Talk. It's very much like it's a therapy session he does with these celebrities. Anyways, he basically just talks to them about their lives, and you know what I mean. And he just kind of lets them go through it as well. So yeah, but hold on a second. As I said, I wanted to see the um yeah, I wanted to see the thing because what I was looking at, but I can't find it. Oh, okay, I can find it. But so exactly, the last one, the last number, they don't have any other numbers for like series 28 or series 29. They don't have any on Wikipedia, but their last one was series 22, which was obviously 699,000. So yeah, that's what they have. Um, but that's the only one that they have basically. But do you see like crazy? Remember, do you see that it's like in 2014 they had reached 1 million, and then also series 7 as well. So this is why I'm saying like I feel like although it's still high, it's not as high as it used to be. That's my whole thing. But anyways, yeah. I started to pick up off on the view stuff. But anyway, see you in the new year, and thank you for listening.